Welcome to Dialogues for Change. Life is not a void to be filled. It is a plenitude to be discovered. Today, I would like to share with you some thoughts by Rajni Kothari, taken from his book Transformation and Survival in Search for a Humane World Order. First, he talks about the paradox of transformation. The paradox of transformation reveals itself also in a series of other dramatic contrasts and contradictions. It is found in the mounting piles of ever more deadly armaments on the one hand, and the growing hordes of the very poor and undernourished living in conditions of extreme deprivation, including starvation, on the other. We are witness to a great schism in the human community, dividing the world into extremes of affluence and extremes of distress, with concentration of poverty and scarcity and unemployment and deprivation in one vast section of mankind, and of overabundance and overproduction and overconsumption in another, very small section of the same species. A century of unprecedented material progress has also been one of sprawling misery and destitution. It is found in the fact that an age that has witnessed the end of empires and the dawn of independence for so many nations has at the same time turned out to be an age of increasing domination of the world by just a few powers. It is found in the fact that despite world agricultural production having been ahead of population growth, food availability has become a serious problem for millions of people. And on balance, there is a net flow of nutritional resources from the poorer and more populous to the richer and less populous regions of the world. It is found in the fact that immigration policies of rich countries with low densities, instead of providing opportunities and refuge to those who need them, have in effect become policies of sucking the most skilled technical manpower from the poorer regions in their own interest. It is found in the fact that policies of aid and transfer of technology and resources from the industrialized regions have in effect turned out to be a net drainage of surpluses from the latter. The paradoxes seem unending. Industrialization was expected to put an end to the condition of scarcity for mankind as a whole. In fact, it has made even basic means of existence more scarce and inaccessible for an increasing number of human beings. Modern education was expected to lead to continuous progress and enlightenment and liberation for all. In fact, it has produced a world dominated by experts and bureaucrats and technocrats. A world in which ordinary human beings feel increasingly powerless and find themselves manipulated by forces beyond their control. Similarly, communication and transportation were expected to produce a small world in which the fruits of knowledge and development in any part of the world would be available to all the others. In fact, modern communication and rapid transportation have produced a world in which a few metropolitan centers are sucking a large part of world resources and depriving other regions of whatever comforts and skills and local resources they once used to enjoy. Similarly, modern mass media and the electronic revolution are threatening the self-reliance and cohesion of communities, cultures, and major civilizations. The world we live in is indeed very badly divided, the divisions going far deeper than the merely ideological, military, or economic. To get out of this predicament, one of the things that Rajni Kothari advocates is to value diversity. If the underdeveloped nations are to acquire real autonomy, I would expect a greater emphasis on diversity of cultures rather than their standardization, a growing expression of national self-consciousness and assertion of what the propagators of the dominant race divide as the parochialism, and a general self-assertion of submerged individuals, groups, and nations. Speaking for myself, I am not terribly enamored of the growth of a world culture or a sense of world community, and certainly not of the conception of some single overriding world authority ensuring peace and dispensing justice to all, nor even of the vague ideas arising out of the technological dream of a single spaceship known as Earth. Basically, I value the freedom of man and his capacity to make choices, the diversity of his culture and the integrity of his tradition, his ability to realize both his individual and his collective selves. All of this through acts of choice, which are informed by a cultivated sense of control over himself and obligation towards others, with whom he is bound by ties of kinship, territoriality, and a common historical destiny. My conception of being of this earth is different from making of it a totalistic transcendental object of identity and loyalty. It rather consists of a certain earthiness, which is rooted and which entails equal regard for the roots of other men and cultures. As we look around the world today, it is precisely this primary prerequisite of a stable and tolerable world order, namely the ability of human beings to control their own diverse futures and the futures of the diverse politico-economic entities in which they live, that is being compromised in the name of science, technology, economic development, and international peace. This is the case not only in the poor and underdeveloped countries, but in the rich and overdeveloped countries as well. For surely just as a state of dependence generates forces that negate the values of freedom and dignity, so do the forces released in the centers of dominance. Of course, the more difficult and intransigent problems in these respects are concentrated in the continents, islands, below the 40th parallel. The scenario that already obtains there and is likely to get worse is one of growing populations whose per capita access to both natural resources and capital goods is declining, where the proportion of the young in total populations is steeply rising, where education is becoming a profound agency of alienation, where the rate of growth of economic opportunities generated by the prevailing technological model is unable to keep pace with either the rate of growth of those seeking employment or the rate of urbanization, where unstable boundaries, alien ideologies, and the opportunistic play of big power politics are fomenting conflicts and violence, and where all these factors converge to produce the appeal of pseudo-radicalism in the economic field and strong-fisted militancy in politics, without in fact attending to either the economic problems of the people or the achievement of genuine political autonomy and stability. I do not see how a world of stable peace with islands of unstable peace can be erected on such a basis, except, as I said earlier, by ensuring stable peace for one hemisphere of the world through a quarantining of the other, more troublesome, chaotic, and miserable hemisphere, essentially by employing the old game of balance of power, more or less on the lines on which the Holy Alliance operated throughout a good part of the 19th century. I doubt, of course, if even this will work. Then he points out two dimensions on which to work. As I see it, there are two major dimensions of ensuring a world more peaceful than the one that seems to be developing before our eyes. The first of these is the achievement of a world consisting of autonomous states that are in a position to enjoy a much more meaningful equality of status than today. The second is the ability of the states to provide minimum living conditions for their peoples, which also entails a certain minimum of equality among them. It is by fulfilling these two dimensions that the prime value of freedom and self-reliance of human beings can be realized, and gradually a more wholesome approach to both nature and technology will become possible. Posed in this manner, the issue before us is not to bridge the wide gaps that divide affluent and poor countries. This is neither feasible nor desirable. Instead, attention should be focused on achieving minimum conditions for all, and certain maximum conditions beyond which it is considered unethical to allow consumption to go, according to regionally approved standards of minima and maxima. Similarly, in the political sphere, the issue is not one of evolving a single world community that will ensure peace, but rather a community of self-respecting and independent states who learn to live together by virtue of their autonomy and equality, and who are able to evolve rational modes of resolving differences and disputes. I think these are very thought-provoking insights by Rajni Kothari. It is, as I always say, a wonderful thing to see the world not only as a void to be filled, but as a plenitude to be discovered. The question we have to ask ourselves is also how to put these things into practice in our political, social way to organize our living together. I hope that these insights inspired you on this Thursday, 28th of June 2012. Thank you.